Welcome to the very first A+ training video for 6th grade, Unit 1, Lesson 1. Each unit will have a unit overview, and this may take a little bit more time than the individual introduction lessons to go over all the yearly documents that we have for A+ within the curriculum to help you better understand to be able to use with your students. Let's go ahead and get started to look at these documents. The very first one is the big picture, the UBD, the Simplified Scales, that's also known as cover page or unit overview, and the scope and sequence. Big picture. That is for the first 9 weeks. It is actually a calendar and a picture of what your units will look like within the 9 weeks. If you notice, these are highlighted. The highlighted indicates that's your very first unit. The title is Unit 1, Ratio Reasoning. And then we have 2 days for this particular lesson that we're going to be focusing on that you'll be able to work out in just a little bit. The very first one is Understand Ratios and Ratio Language. It takes 2 days. And then there's others that are bolded. Those are also ones that we'll be working on today in training. If you notice there's a blank here, that stands for the assessment. So this unit actually goes for 14 days with 1 day for assessing at the end. Then we have our UBD. The UBD is the goals, the meaning, and the acquisition of this particular unit. If you notice, the goals are the actual course of study. So this reflects the actual new course of study that we have now. We have 1 and 3. If you notice there are lines here, those are also known as strike-throughs. That means that this unit includes everything within those courses of study except those areas that are struck through, and that will be next unit. Then we have an understanding category. This is where students will understand these 2 bulleted areas. Then the essential questions. That's your big concepts, your big ideas that you want your students to accomplish throughout the unit. Then we have our knowledge. The students will know what are they going to know by the end of this unit. And then the skills that they're going to continue to use throughout this unit on to next unit and need for the rest of the year. So as you look at this, this will help you. I'd like you to pause the video and read over each of these bulleted areas so you are more familiar with this particular unit before you get started working on it. Now on to the Simplified Scale. It's also known as a cover page or a unit overview. This has each concept broken down in student-friendly terms. It also has the name of the lesson. So let's just focus on this particular lesson, Understand Ratios and Ratio Language. It's 2 days, day 1 and day 2. And then the concept is identify and explain ratio relationships. Now in my classroom, I say that's the student's learning target for today or during this time of this lesson. And we go over this a tremendous amount in what are they expected to do. And so they know exactly what they're doing and what they're wanting to accomplish by the end. So I can identify and explain ratio relationships. Then we have a 4, 3, 2, and 1 category. This 4 category means that they're exceeding the expectation. They can actually take this concept for this day and teach someone else. The next for their self-assessment would be, I can do it myself. That's that proficient category. That's a 3. We want all students to be at that level, particularly by the end of the unit. But at the end of the lesson, that's where our goal is for them and for themselves. Now, this 2 category means that they can do some of it with some hints, or they still have some questions. And then that 1 category means they're just not there yet. They don't understand what they need to understand to be able to succeed in that concept. Now, thinking about that one, all of that self-assessment for you as a teacher, looking at the students, where do they self-assess themselves, that helps you understand where they are and where they think they are in their learning, so you can continue to provide the support that they need to accomplish that concept. Now, moving on to the scope and sequence. Every unit starts with a unit note. This is research-based material within that will talk about the entire unit. In this particular unit, I'm only going to read a short part of it, and then you'll be able to read the rest of it on your own. This is ratio reasoning. So what is important for this unit as a teacher to know? Proportional reasoning is a process that requires instruction and practice. It does not develop over time on its own. Grade 6 is the first of several years in which students develop this multiplicative thinking. Experience with proportional and non-proportional relationships, comparing and predicting ratios, and relating ratios to previously learned unit fractions will facilitate the development of proportional reasoning. Now, I want you, if you could pause the video and continue reading the rest of it. All of that's very important before you start teaching this unit to know as a teacher to help our students in aiding their success. Now on to the look of the scope and sequence. We have the title of the lesson, we have the days, understand ratios and ratio language, the course of study, and the teacher note. This basically summarizes what's important to know as a teacher for this lesson. Then the prerequisite skills, what's really the areas that your students really need to make sure that they know prior to the lesson. Reading your prerequisite skills, those can be embedded into bell ringers, exit slips, homework, things like that, to help continue that foundational, if there is any foundational gaps with students. And then we have materials needed. It's broken up into days, day 1 and day 2. This is also will be in your student resources, all the pages that your students need. And then now to the presentation strategies. These were written by teachers in the state of Alabama that have actually used this material. And these are strategies to help you in planning your lesson. So look at the very first bullet. Begin the lesson. Then it says students will read the next bullet. Students will work in small groups the next bullet. And the next students will complete the Frere model. Then day 2, begin the lesson with the Frere model. Then the next bullet, students will work in groups to complete. And the teacher should go over the directions, and that can be used as a formative assessment for independent classwork or homework. So this is the end of your Unit 1, Lesson 1. As you continue through the next 4 days, we have created all of these lessons to be able to be accomplished virtually. So some may be a little different than the actual presentation strategies due to we are in a virtual world right now. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate. We're here to help, and we look forward to continuing this training.